Hello and welcome to my side of the laundry room. My name's Rob.
And I'm Chris.
And we want to talk about kind of a follow-up of what we did a few weeks ago of our favorite 80s toys. These are ones that might still be favorites, but they were big disappointments. When the reality sunk in, when the commercial did not live up to the product.
And alas, that was many toys, because we really grew up in that. Well, I mean, we had half-hour commercials.
I hate saying that, but yes, that's what they were.
We really did. We had half-hour commercials, and we were peddled to very well. And it was great. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to blame the media for my upbringing or whatever. I hate that phrase. But, we always, you got the cool commercials. You had the play sets with the kids playing, and it was in their backyard. And they had, wow. It was, it was really cool. And there were certain toys that just looked great. But once you got them, it was kind of like, well, now what? Or it broke real easy, or it didn't perform as the commercial intended. And that was always disappointing. It really was. And then there were the great toys that, of course, delivered on everything. Or the toys that were better than you expected or whatever. But for me, and I'm going to get hate for this. I think the most overrated toy of the 80s is Castle Grayskull. It is talked about. It is mythicized. And it really is just it's a lump of plastic. It had a chair and an eagle with a trapdoor and a laser turret. And lots of cardboard cutouts on the inside.
Oh, shit that did not match
anything.
The cartoon or the toy.
Anything.
But they were awesome. It's neat artwork.
Well, it was great artwork, but I'm saying, like, here comes the Filmation cartoon, right?
Yeah.
And Castle Grayskull's this site of power. This archaic construction. I mean, it almost looks like it's coming out of the earth, or Eternia when in the
and the sorceress lived there.
Of course.
But just a little, it wasn't until like the third wave of toys where we actually started matching up with the cartoon, where we got our Orko, we got our Prince Adam, we got our sorceress.
And the Castle Grayskull dropped very early in that toy line.
Oh yeah,
that was one of
within the very first wave.
Absolutely, it was very much so. Which was back then. That's what you got. Your first wave of toys was usually 3 or 4 toys of good guys, bad guys, 1 or 2 vehicles, and then usually a play set, varying in size. Yeah. Now, Castle Grayskull was the first play set for the Masters of the Universe line.
Yes.
And the only thing and I never had the other play sets, but the only 2 big play sets that I can think of is, of course, Snake Mountain, which is not nearly as romanticized as the...
Well, it's finding its due now, but yes.
But if you look back at it, the nicest one was the Eternia playset.
Well, fuck yeah.
It
had a monorail system and a big mountain in it and shit.
And all these different towers and spires and things like that. But then going back
to Snake Mountain, it did not match the cartoon version of it.
No, not at all.
But the cool thing is, it had a microphone that you could be, ho, 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 got you now.
That is true.
Yeah.
But I'm saying... The Castle Grayskull was something I was very excited to get on a Christmas morning.
Same here.
And I was very excited to open it up, put it together, play with it. There was a lot of inherent weaknesses with that toy. And what I mean by that is the way the fold and collapse contraption turn it into a carrying case, those would break relatively easy.
Yeah. That was just like the ball that went into the slot.
Pretty much.
So there was no...
Pretty much. And then there was one thing that I thought was very interesting. There was like a whirligig thing with a little tripod, and it had like a... What the fuck was that for?
That's so He-Man could practice his sword skills.
Oh, is that what that was for?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
He hit the one side. Oh, it's coming
back.
Oh, with a shield. Oh.
Perhaps if our Masters Universe figures were more articulated, we could have reenacted that a little bit better. But that's not the point.
Exactly.
The point is, I owned the toy. I had it in its heyday, and I personally, it just wasn't that great. It just wasn't.
I agree, looking back at it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's still romanticized.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is so very much like, you know, like the Maddie Club actually redid the Castle Grayskull
they
like
did.
4 or 5 years ago and charged like, you know, $200 on your firstborn child to get one. It was like,
It was about the same thing. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, but to say if I saw it at a flea market for cheap, busted up, I wouldn't care. I would get it just to have it on my shelf. You know, not to play with
the
it.
one side of
front
it,
panel.
yeah, the front panel,
Yeah,
the back
that's all I
side
would
looked like
need.
a fucking log cabin or some shit with
Yeah.
wood pipes or whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. It was a nice
It's an
focal feature in the
icon,
front.
yeah.
It is. That I will totally agree with. Do you have anything that kind of fits?
Well, the first thing that popped into my mind when we just started talking about this, and it was something I didn't own, but something that did not live up to what the cartoon painted it as, was the Thunder Tank.
Ooh,
I mean, the Thunder Tank in the cartoon, the back half
it's
of it,
awesome.
all of them got in it. You know, they had like a little
It was a
war
transport
room kind of thing.
Yeah, it was like a transport, right?
And it was just Panthro in the front. The toy, you have Panthro and someone riding shotgun. And when you open the top, they had that Paul blaster thing.
Yes, yes.
But that was it. No other figures could fit in it.
You know what was cool about the Thunder Tank in the cartoon? Remember the one claw or the two claws? I cannot remember for sure.
Grappling hooks?
Were the grappling hooks, which seemed to be a relatively easy thing to reproduce on that toy.
Yeah, just launching claws.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Or just even a string you could have pulled out and put it on the side and, you know, it works, whatever. But the scale did not match what it should have been, you know? And I don't understand why you couldn't have made that bigger to accommodate more figures. Just saying, I mean, it's,
price
you know,
point, I'm sure, but
they didn't care about that.
no. And they were very unarticulated figures, just like He-Man.
You know what got me is, remember Panther came out and he was specifically designed to sit
Yes,
in the
he
Thunder
kind of had
had,
somewhat bended knee molded, of course. But yeah, I
which
mean,
always made the figure look like he was taking a dump. You know, because he had that bended leg. You know what I mean? It's just not fair to Panthro.
no.
And Panther was
he
a
got
great
the
character,
Yeah, he got
you know?
the short end on that one. But yeah, like I said, it was something I never owned, but it definitely, when you did see it finally, you know, a kid in school would bring it in, it's like, it was nowhere near the equivalent of what the cartoon showed.
Fair. That's a very fair. I never owned it, but I knew someone who had it, and I was very disappointed with the actual figure itself, or the vehicle itself.
Because you do want that carrying case, and if it was the Thunder Tank, that would be fucking awesome. Be able to shove all your characters in the back. It's like I had the G.I. Joe APC or whatever.
Oh, yeah, the one that held like 800 figures?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It even came with a little seatbelt thing that went on. I love that thing. And
I
it was
agree.
a functioning vehicle as well as a carrying case. The bumper pulled out that you could carry it.
And do you know what's the great thing about the APC? To this day, you can still find that thing in great shape, very cheap.
It did not have a lot of moving parts, not a lot that could go missing. It was a very good toy.
But it's a big toy that
yeah,
you know,
it was
right.
that big.
And you can still find them, and like I said, and they're not ridiculously overpriced. It's not like a Sky Striker, which is like $150 or whatever out of the box. You can still find the thing $40.
Because people really don't have memory. I mean, Sky Striker, that was one of those toys, you know, like when you got it, like the hovercraft.
You're right. You are totally correct. So, you know, we talked about the APC, we talked about the Thunder Tank, we've talked about Castle Grayskull. Do you have any other disappointments?
I think the biggest disappointment for me is, from commercial to reality, is any and all remote controlled vehicles.
Oh, preach on. Preach on.
Because in the
Preach
commercials,
on.
they're going outside over fucking sticks, rocks, leaves,
Everything.
anything. Yeah.
They're doing everything. They're doing everything you want them to do. And then you get it. And it sinks in your buddy's pool.
If it's a hovercraft, yeah. But it doesn't do half the stuff that it shows. The batteries only last an hour.
Well, then, if you've ever read, this is the best part about every RC car. If you read, like, the back of whatever the hell it is at the battery pack, you know, where it plugs in.
You can buy additional charges.
Okay, well, absolutely.
Yeah.
But what it says on them is, don't take vehicle in rain. Don't take vehicle through water. Don't take vehicle through a monsoon. Don't take it through the snow. Don't do any. But yet,
in the commercial, it's splashing
it's
through creek
doing
beds.
everything. It can do whatever you want it to do. You know? I agree.
And that's how I feel
absolutely
about
agree.
these drones now. Like, people are posting these awesome Star Wars drones of speeder bikes, X-Wings, fucking
Millennium
Star
Falcons,
Destroyers. Yeah. Is it going to be anything like those commercials? No, I've been burnt too many times.
Either it's going to tree and you just got to hover.
Yeah,
right.
It's going to shatter if it hits a tree
Yep.
because you're not going to know what the fuck you're doing, like these professionals in the commercials.
Who've had 8 hours to fuck with them before the commercial gets filmed, you know. And they've got an endless supply of ones if they ruin them. So it's like, oh, here, don't worry about it. Here's another one.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. I couldn't have said better. And we were really in the prime of the RC car.
Oh yeah.
That every Christmas you had a new one that came out for, you know, the hot whatever RC little dune buggy thing.
And they were
or whatever.
always expensive. And I remember every Christmas wanting that one out of the catalog that was brand shiny new.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, you'd have an aunt that would spend a little bit more on you than your own fucking parents would. And they would get a remote control, but it's like Montgomery Ward, cheap ass, had that metal antenna, you know.
Or it had the cord hooked to it.
Oh, that was my favorite. Because they hide the cord in the packaging.
Uh-huh.
So you're like, oh my God! And you're like, oh, it can go 2 feet away from me. There's no going through creek beds or up mountains with this motherfucker.
And if I wanted to go fast, I got to run.
And that ain't happening.
You're right. No, I can tell you another thing. It was extremely popular when we were kids. So around like 85, 86, I think it was called Intertech or Entech or whatever the hell it was called.
There were a couple companies, but Intertech was one of them.
Okay, is that so? My memory. So here was this awesome commercial, and it opened up with all these kids, and it would have the slow motion. It would stop at each one, and there was like an AK-47. There was an M60. I think there was even like a
missile launcher.
Missile launcher, and then there was like a
la Rambo style.
Yes, and there was like a Colt.
Mac 10s.
Mac 10s.
Berettas.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
it's the type of shit that you can't get away with nowadays.
Oh, absolutely not.
No.
So these were battery-powered
squirt guns.
Squirt guns.
Yeah.
And they looked awesome. Okay? I mean, they looked great. And I remember getting one of the cheaper models for my birthday because I have, you know, a spring birthday. And I remember my mom and dad asking me, what do you want? I want one of these cool, awesome automatic squirt guns. I think I got the Mac 10, which was on the
fucking A, right.
cheaper side of that array. And
Invasion USA,
yeah,
brother.
yeah, pretty much. So, and it was great for like an hour. But guess what happens?
Batteries die, the pump goes faulty, there's a million things that went wrong with those fucking things.
There was, but do you know what the biggest thing was? Because, see, I took that Mac 10 back and got another Mac 10 because I was very happy to have it. And that Mac 10 had the same exact problem as the one I took back.
What's that?
So the battery pack was in the handle. The water, now these guns had clips.
Yes.
So you could fill up the clip with water and, you know.
And it was a little hose sticking out that you had to put through the hole.
Absolutely. And what happened is the clip, because you're doing your Rambo, your Assault USA, I'll even throw a little Hudson Hawk action in there. You know, some Remo Williams. You're running through your backyard, your little fat ass. You got your automatic squirt gun, and you're rolling around. You're doing all the cool stuff. Well, guess what happens? Water comes out, goes into the battery pack, and fries the frickin' unit. So I went through 2 of these. So great concept. It was
they were
fantastic.
made out of very hard plastic.
Yes, they were.
One drop, they cracked.
Yes,
easy.
they did.
There were so many people I knew that the front end would shear off of every Uzi.
Yep.
Because it would have that like compression fitting that Uzis had, and that was just a great breaking point.
It was absolutely. Mac 10 wasn't any different.
You're right.
You know what I mean? And it was, like I said, it was a great concept. It was a great idea, and it was awesome. Every one of the guns looked great. They all looked great, but there was a flaw because water would come up through, and the battery pack was at the handle, and the trigger's there, and the water mechanism was all right within. You know, if they had figured out a way to contain the water side from the power side,
right,
they probably would have had a toy that may even still be selling. Maybe.
Well, no, it would not be selling.
But anyway.
Yeah, that was, and I wrote a thing about that.
You did.
Summer
I forgot about
toys that
those.
I
Yep,
never
yep.
got, and that was definitely one of them because there were kids down the street from me that their dad was a weekend reservist. So they were cats that had camo,
I
all
gotcha.
the guns, because that was part of their lifestyle. And here I show up with my clear fucking green, you know,
Dollar store. Yeah.
and they're running all up on me and shit. But two things that I remember. Do you remember? I don't know who made it, if it was Intertech or Laramie or one of them, but you get 2 Mac 10s in a pack with invisible ink. You got blue and red ink, and it was like playing
I do remember
tag.
these. Yes.
And just think about that for a minute, everybody. If today we had a true reproduction of a plastic Mac 10, that when you shoot somebody, they get red ink all over their shirt. That would not be PC nowadays.
No.
But then I remember what I thought was very cool, because we could not afford battery operated, but it was this Beretta looking pistol I had with an extended clip.
Okay.
But this would be the beginnings of the pump era water guns, that you pull back the, the cocking mechanism like a real handgun.
That's
I thought I was the cat's ass with that.
That's a great toy.
Yeah.
That is a great toy. It's a simple.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because the Super Soaker was the next logical step after the
Yes.
Intertech or
And of
Laramie
course,
or whatever.
after some of the safety issues with Super Soakers, they could be crazily painted, weird engineering that they don't look anything like a real firearm.
Mm-hmm. But they were great squirt guns.
They were.
They were fantastic squirt guns, especially if you had a friend who had a pool, because you could take the lid off of it and kind of hover it in the water, and the tank would constantly fill.
Yeah, and that's why we were all
there,
20-year-olds running off to Caldor buying Super Soakers.
Yes, we were.
Because we were hanging at a buddy's pool every day during the summer.
Yep. Yes, we were. Yes, we were spending $30 on squirt guns. Didn't have money for gas, but we had money for squirt guns. But anyway.
And when we tried to outdo each other, look at this one, And
mine's got a backpack.
Yeah.
You're in a pool, asshole.
Yeah, and that's where the whole pool bully thing started, because you'd be like, kind of like Billy Madison with the hose, you run up on somebody. Ow, my fucking eye,
Oh, wow, I forgot about that. But the Intertech was a great idea. It was a great concept, and it was fun for the hour and a half that it fucking worked. And for anybody who got more longevity out of them, I'd love to know. Did you soak them in like Vaseline or something? I mean, seriously, mine was, maybe I just had bad luck.
No, I knew a lot of cats that had bad luck with them. I mean, but that was the pinnacle, because what were we seeing in the movie theaters? What were we bringing home?
Oh, you ain't
Commando,
kidding.
Rambo,
You ain't kidding.
Braddock Missing in Action Part 3. I mean, we had all, we were surrounded by this lifestyle. And it's like, if you could reproduce that at home with a very lifelike gun, which nowadays, like I said, no. It's the same thing. I mean, we still have laser tag. It still exists, but in a controlled environment. They don't sell it like they do. Laser tag, photon, and I got one of these cheap fucking Rite Aid ones. Very disappointed, because it was nothing like the real laser tag.
Okay.
Which probably real laser tag wasn't as it was advertised, because you probably had to be right up on somebody.
Well, I told you that story.
Yes.
And laser tag is another one of my disappointing toys, because this was a commercial that made this look so fantastic. You know what I mean? You're in a battle dome, and there's guys with skateboards,
and neon,
and there's neon, there's two teams, and there's a chick up there passing, judgment on everybody and whatever else, and then you get it, and it's like, and we got
and
it.
it's like, I'm fat, this rig won't even fit on me.
Yes. That is correct. Or the hat was the most uncomfortable thing ever.
Our guest star.
Yeah, well, so all white. Anyway, so we got laser tag years after the fad.
Yes.
years at. I mean,
Yeah, this was something that, like, on the boardwalk of your local ocean resort type of place you would have. I didn't go to the ocean, at least Ocean City for us, well into my teens. You know, it totally missed me, that era. And I had no friends to fucking play with. What am I going to do, run around the backyard and shoot myself?
So what ended up happening with us is the stuff went on sale, which inevitably all the hot toys do. And that was the year that my mother and my aunts basically conspired. And my father, myself, my cousins, my uncles, we got laser tag.
Nice.
You say that.
But a family bonding experience. That's nice.
Yeah, okay. So, run around the woods with your father and uncles who inevitably cheat. So you could shoot them 5 times and they turn the thing on and off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, okay. Yeah. And my cousins and I weren't really quick enough to figure out what they were doing, but yet we were quicker and agile, if you can imagine that, than our fathers and uncles, or my uncles. And it degraded into, you know,
them pistol whipping with them or something.
You wanted to, because they were cheating asses. But no, but I'm saying it was something that didn't live up to the expectation, because you ended up realizing that you basically had to be about 10 feet away from somebody to really get the thing to register and all that type of thing. And so that was another one of those disappointing toys. But I'm going to tell you this, the ad campaign for that was freaking brilliant.
Well, do you remember the Saturday morning cartoon of laser tag?
Yes. It had a monkey.
Yeah, and it had like these weird alien things that came through a portal that worked for the bad guy. They were like a thing 1 and thing 2 kind of thing.
I do recall that.
And then Photon Show,
which was awesome.
It was awesome. It was live action with monster suits and,
if I'm not mistaken,
Bodie Lee.
I was about to say, I believe the lead character's name was Bodie Lee. But yes, you are correct. That was one of those toys that just great, but it was not great in reality. You know what I mean? Now, the Photon was cool because they actually had like arenas.
Yes.
And I can remember being like 13 years old. One of the few times we went to Ocean City, there was a Photon arena at the end of the boardwalk in Ocean City, Maryland. And me, because we took a lot of family vacations. It wasn't just me and my mom and dad. It was me, my mom, dad, my aunt and uncle, and cousins. And I had cousins that were 4 or 5 years older than me and 4 or 5 years younger than me. So we would do Photon. And it was a great time because it was just us kids and it was all legit. So, you know, our cheating ass dads and uncles couldn't be in there. You know what I mean? So it was all, you know. But that was fun. And I'm glad I did it. But I'm sure there was a bloody fortune. For the time and whatever else, if I think about it. I mean, you know. But that was cool. But I'll tell you, my last truly great disappointing toy, and I wanted it so bad. Do you remember the Nerf boomerang?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I wrote about that, too. I never got one.
So it was a 3-prong thing.
Yeah.
And the key to it was you had to kind of fold it a little bit on the ends. And
I didn't know there was a key thing.
Well, that's what was on the instruction manual.
Oh, no shit, okay.
Yes. So it wasn't just me, but there was 3 or 4 of us that got one. So, yet again, probably towards the end of the fad, marked down to probably like $5. But it was like 5 or 6 of us got one. So I always envision like one of my aunts or even my mom getting those and getting one for everybody kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so the commercial was great. You know, you could bend it a little bit, and what it would do is you'd throw it and it would come right back to you.
Right.
Okay? Well, it would kind of come back to your general direction.
Yeah, and if you were in a fucking football field that was flat with no trees or briars or anything.
Correct. Now, I was fat, portly, rotund, whichever. Husky. We'll go with husky. And I had visions of, you know, the glaive. You know, when I saw this thing. It was far-fetched. Yeah, exactly. You know? And it would return to me. I'm like Thor in the backyard with my owner, okay? Well, the problem is my owner's apparently got ADD. Because it would come about 5 feet behind you, 6 feet above you, 10 feet in front of you.
Yeah.
I mean, it would do the arc. It was a good concept. But if you watch the commercial, yet again, or even on the back of the comic,
Yes.
there was this great, there's this cartoon kid's just so simple. He's got it. No.
Yeah, I remember those ads.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the thing that made me feel better is, yet again, that Christmas, I wasn't the only one to get one. So it wasn't just me that was having the inherent flaw.
Right.
All of us are rushing out, playing with our Nerf effing
Everyone at one time.
fuck. Pretty much. So it's like, I got my cousins got mine. I mean, nobody got the one, you know what I mean? So, but it was, but it was a great commercial. It was a great ad camp. You see where we're coming from here.
Yes.
And then when the reality is, it's really kind of terrible, Yeah.
I'd have to say my last one is probably not something a lot of people remember, but Sky Commanders. They went on zip strings around.
Yeah.
But the fucking commercial made it like they had their whole living room decked out. All these neon strings here and there and everywhere, and all the different vehicles were zipping by each other. Well, when you got it, you only got maybe this much string. Well, that's an exaggeration. You probably got 6 foot of string. So, where in your house can you tie it to one point very high and one point very low where it's actually going to move by itself?
The vanity to the toilet.
Yeah, and it's just like... Now, they were cool. I mean, they were...
Oh, they had little figures, right?
2-inch figures, mask size, like the mask figures.
Okay.
And it was made by Hasbro, I think. Maybe. It's either them or the
Mattel?
Sky... What was the other one? Sky
Air Raiders, Sky Raiders, yeah.
Yeah. But they were all... It was like the new size. We went from 3 3/4 down to these 2-inch figures.
And you're right, the mask figures were the...
Yep, right.
Yep.
But... No, did not live up to the hype, and it was one of those things, I'm sure if I knew to read the fine print, like, additional strings added. Where it's just like, the kids are like, whoa, and they're fucking zipping by.
So could you buy, like, additional string?
No.
So you had to go...
Yeah, and it was this
Go
nice
to a yarn store and...
nylon, neon-colored string. Yeah. But the thing is, I think there was only one that was actually motorized.
Excuse me,
and it
man,
was
where's your macrame section? My Sky Commanders. Do you have neon yellow? Oh my god.
But they actually had one that was battery operated, I think. It was like a command center that would... But on the other ones, wasn't even like a caster. It was just a form-molded...
Tube?
Well, it was like a... the whole
kind of
thing
like hung on top of it?
Like it. Right, but it just like... it didn't have any real moving mechanism at all to like help it fucking down the string. So yeah, that was a disappointment. I still wish I had it. It's one of those things.
Well, yeah,
I wish I didn't get rid of it.
I did not get on the Sky Commander bandwagon. I wanted to because if you remember, the Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera. One of the shows eventually dropped. Might have been Wacky Racers or Goldar or
right.
Paw Bears. I can't remember. But one of the other ones was Sky Commanders.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a great cartoon.
Yeah, they're fighting in these
ravines and
the vehicles would shoot lines and they'd fucking zip around and they would like, what's the word? But they would like, the guys would get out and clip on and shit like that. Yeah, but did not live up.
Not happening. None of that, huh?
No.
See?
That was towards the late end of the 80s where
You're right
everything was neon. Even beloved G.I. Joes had turned into... I mean, Christ, Snake Eyes had neon blue accents on him.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
If that cat knocks over my Spider-Man statue, I'm going to be pissed. But anyway...
But, the saving grace of that time period, truthfully, and that was like the really cool logistical next step, was like the Visionaries, because they were articulated. They were, 4 1/4? Because they were taller than Joe's.
They're about, 4/4, 5 inch.
Okay, and those were great toys, with a lot of articulation, a lot of
The
helmets
same
and
like
stuff
articulation that came with Cops. Those figures
were
were
fantastic.
awesome because you had essentially a G.I. Joe figure this
that was
big,
6 inches tall.
right? You know, with swivel arms. You know,
those were great toys.
Yeah.
Terrible cartoon. Even worse comic
no,
book.
it was a good cartoon when we were kids. You watch it now, as soon as Big Boss is like, yeah, see, yeah, you're like, oh, what the fuck was I thinking?
Terrible comic that actually ran like 50-some issues, believe it or not.
And it had good art.
It did.
Sadly.
It did. But those were great. Those were towards the end of that era.
But we can blame DC like we've done before. That was a DC comic.
But that was towards the end of that whole run, and you know, those two lines kind of, to me, always set themselves apart, you know, because of the articulation, the size of the figures, and all the, you know, stuff that came with them. But man, that's really interesting about Sky Commanders. I would have like totally, I would have not assumed that, you know what I mean? So that's nice.
Yeah,
cool.
And I'm sure that, I mean, it didn't last that long. It maybe got, what,
none of those did.
12-ish episodes. And
none of them did
no,
at that era.
That was the time they were just tossing bait out, just waiting
You're right about
for
that.
the next thing.
You're right about that. Hoping to God to hit lightning again, or, you know, that in a bottle. And but anyway, you know what? Hit us up. Tell us some of your disappointing times.
Yeah, please.
You know, we missed the 90s, so maybe there was something in the 90s that we didn't miss it, but I'm just saying there was...
No,
you know, we weren't buying toys actively. Or
yes,
what,
we did, but we were just picking what we wanted. That was the era, you know, McFarlane toys started coming out. We were buying those.
Yes, we bought lots of those.
Fuck, I even have Wildcats figures. Jesus Christ.
I had Exo Squad figures. They were great toys.
Exo Squad was not a bad cartoon. We'll get into that.
That was a great toy line
right.
too, though. But I mean, yeah, you're right. We know that's a story unto itself, really.
Side question before we leave. But was Exo Squad the one that reproduced some of the old Macross toys? Like you had Rifleman.
Yes.
And and like the Mac 2.
So
and
the first era of Exo Squad had the basic figures,
right?
And mechs. They were which was nice because you actually got an articulated figure,
yes,
with a mech. Okay, and the mechs were cool. They all did stuff. The wings, and then there was a wave 2 for the mechs, which were even nicer. I mean, they started getting bigger. You know what I mean? And then in like wave 3 and 4, they started getting really strange because you didn't know what one had to do with the other. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But it was the Macross, it was the Robotech, so it was Exo Squad featuring Robotech.
Yeah, and if I remember...
And those were nice. These were sizable toys.
Yeah, and they had a lot of things like missiles that went on and a lot of little pieces.
Even the Robotech redos were nice. They were 10 inches or more.
Right.
And they were pretty cool. And the thing was, and I don't have a good reason for it, but in our group of friends, even by like the one friend that you would have thought would have gone apeshit for those, didn't.
Right.
So I don't know why. You know what? I'm not being funny.
Well, he was so ingrained into the Japanese culture, he probably saw it as just...
Oh, you're thinking that one.
I'm thinking Matt on that one.
Well, you are thinking Matt. I'm thinking the other one.
Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, true.
Because at that time, you know, he had more money than sense. I'm being, you know, which is he would say the same thing if he was sitting here. You know what I mean? But
I remember watching the cartoon with him.
Cartoon was great.
After school.
Absolutely. I loved the cartoon. I even bought the Topps comics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I really liked it. It was a good, solid show. But the toy line was great.
Right.
But I just never understood why you would have thought we would have bought the shit out of those Robotech toys.
True.
And we just didn't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we were just out of high school. We were
pretty much
high school. We were starting to get responsibilities. And they were pretty pricey. Well, somewhat.
Okay. Sorry.
Some of us did.
I mean, greatest responsibility at that point was who's going to buy the beer. But anyway, you're right. We were not in high school anymore. We were definitely kind of, you know, trying to figure out what the hell we're all going to do.
But we still were like, because Marvel superheroes figures were still around, and it's like, oh, check out this new Venom or new Punisher toy.
Those were great toys.
Yeah.
Those were great toys. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please share any toy memories you have of being disappointed. And this has been My Side of the Laundry Room. I'm Rob.
I'm Chris.
Keep being rad and stay dorky. Peace.
Oh.
hello. I didn't even see you there. Just catching up on some reading. I hope you enjoyed this episode of My Side of the Laundry Room Live. If you did enjoy it, if you like it, if you love it, if you need it, click the subscription button. It's that simple. Just click it and you will be updated via email whenever we post a new video. And if you like what you see here, please head over to mysideofthelaundryroom.wordpress.com. And guess what? You can subscribe there too. And you'll be hit up anytime via email whenever I do anything new, whenever I talk about the glorious 80s stuff that we love. Comic books, video games, movies, toys, cartoons, you name it, it's there. So please subscribe here and there. Keep being rad and stay dorky.